I heard Broderick Chavez say this one time. This one made me laugh, and it's a good analogy. He said it's like being on the first floor and trying to get to the 50th floor of the building. Pressing
Yeah,
the 50th floor button's not going to harder. Is not going to get you there faster,
yeah, you're just
right?
smashing
It
it there.
doesn't speed the elevator.
Yeah, it's not go
There's a
faster.
rate limit on hypertrophy, and
Yeah.
there's only so much muscle protein synthesis that can be stimulated in a given period of time. And we want to set the table up for maximum,
Hmm.
but there's some genetic limits on it. Their diet plays a role in it, nutrient partitioning, insulin sensitivity, and but most people just want to bludgeon the androgen receptor with more androgens, thinking it's going to speed things up, and it often doesn't. Sometimes it's the answer.
Yeah. All right, welcome everyone. This is your friendly neighborhood Gonzalo Herrero from Rice 41. Today, my coach, probably my favorite guest of all time, or one of my top five for sure, is my coach, Mr. Big Paul Barnett. Paul, how are you doing today?
What do I have to do to be number one, man?
There's no telling, it's classified. Classified that criteria.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
All right, excellent. And we're going to talk today. Going to try something a little different. So, a lot of Paul's clients and friends of ours do weekly check-ins, and as part of his coaching program, you will do a weekly check-in. But I wanted to kind of take a look at a higher level, at maybe a 90-degree progression, and show what you can expect out of a 90-day progression, because then you
Hmm.
have more data to play with and look around and kind of see pictures, that kind of thing. And I wanted Paul to, of course, give us weigh in, and hopefully another thing that I'd like to emphasize here is that we're both over the age of 50, so a lot of this content will have a focus necessarily on subtle things that you might want to consider when you're over, say, 40, 50. And when we find those things, we'll mention them. We'll kind of like
Hmm.
make a little note. So off we go. So let's see. One thing that I wanted to talk about, just to open the stage, is let's talk about why bodybuilding progress is measured usually in months and years and not days. And Paul, if you want to just give a quick thought to kind of lay that framework for people to understand.
Well, I mean, fat loss or hypertrophy are both slow. I just recently had a new client sign up, and it's like we're 2 weeks in. He's like, I'm not seeing anything yet. I'm like, yeah, no shit, man.
It's 2 weeks, bro.
It's 2 weeks, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's like watching Rome being built, and you see just a few bricks being laid
yeah, yeah,
on the foundation, and you're like, well, I don't see any progress. I'm like, no, man, this takes years.
yeah, yeah.
And we have real life examples of it. Nick Walker would be a guy that I point to frequently, but he put on about 100 pounds of muscle in an 8 year period of time, something like that. We know he's on the extreme end of things. Like he's elite.
Yeah.
And the one of the best guys in the world, top 5 guys in the world, averaged something like 12 pounds of muscle a year, 1 pound a month.
Right,
That's a quarter pound of lean tissue per week. Now, not granted, it doesn't come linearly like that, right?
right.
It's going to come in phases.
Hmm.
We can talk about that. But are you really going to see in your check-in pictures or on the scale quarter pound of muscle gained every week?
Yeah, probably
I mean, you
not.
can have a couple pounds of poop every day, right?
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
Or water
Yeah,
fluctuations. So you're not really going to see those changes. The only time that you'll see in pictures that you'll see rapid changes is the last few weeks before show and then a few weeks post show.
right.
Outside of that, you don't really see a lot. And I've had to do this at some point with all of my clients. And I know I did it with you at
Hmm.
one point. I'll take a picture of now versus 6 months ago. I'll be like, look at this. And you're
Yeah,
like, oh, You know, like when somebody gets down on themselves, you're like, oh, damn, I had no idea that I made these kinds of changes. So if Nick Walker was averaging a quarter pound of muscle gain per week,
Mm,
I mean, what are you going to expect?
that's right.
Right.
What about us mere mortals, right? So,
Right. So I mean, honestly, if we think about it, if you put on 5, 6 pounds a week, or 5, 6 pounds a year, sorry,
right, right, right.
of muscle over a 5 year period of time, that's going to be 25, 30 pounds of muscle. You're probably going to be the biggest dude in your gym,
Yeah, no, for sure.
right?
Like,
I was
mm,
just saying that's what makes this such a mind fuck, and I think this is where most people get themselves in trouble is they don't have the patience or the consistency to actually get there. I'm a musician, and it's any great I went to college for music, and I'd say I'm a above average musician, but
mhm.
not a great one. But the great ones play for 10 to 15 years before they make it look, and I mean
Effortless.
practice a
Yeah.
lot before it looks effortless.
Hmm.
There was 10, 15 years of suffering that went in to look like that. And it's the same thing with bodybuilding.
Yep.
It's consistent, slow, incremental progress over a long period of time. And even if you're just trying to look better, I mean, it's not necessarily just bodybuilding. If you're just somebody who's trying to look better, I mean, we can talk about the rates of fat loss. Fat loss is much easier and much quicker than
Hmm.
muscle gaining.
Yeah.
But still, week to week, you're not really going to see fat loss in the mirror that apparently, and we can do the math on it. A 500 calorie a day net negative energy balance
Hmm.
or deficit, whatever the hell you want to call it, is 1 pound of fat loss a week. 1,000 calories is two.
Hmm.
Now, are you really going to see a pound and a half to 2 pounds of fat loss in a week in the mirror?
Absolutely not.
And we could do the math on it. It's like what is that? 0.2 pounds per day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Point three
it's
pounds per day.
infinitesimal. It's nothing that's going to be so visually apparent, you know? And another thing I wanted to, like, comment on, which I know you have thoughts on, is the, people get nervous about wanting to accelerate that rate of fat loss, and then they sacrifice muscle because there
Yeah.
is such a thing as going too fast,
Well, there is. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there is an upper limit to it. I mean, it's like I said, we can do it's math at the end of the day.
Mhm,
So I don't know what the average BMR is for an adult male. It's probably somewhere between 2,000 calories and 2,500 calories, I would guess.
mhm,
I mean, we can look it up, but
yeah,
let's just for even math say 2,500 calories is the average BMR for an adult male. And if we want to lose 2 pounds per week, that's 1,500 calories. I mean, like, where are you going to go from there?
yeah, yeah. Well, you can't just survive on air, and then your body's gonna start cannibalizing itself too, right? Because it wants
Yeah.
to live, you
Yeah. I
know?
mean, there's a certain amount of nutrients that you need to live. And there's an adaptive process as well. If you push the deficit too hard,
Mhm,
I mean, your metabolism isn't static. It's
right,
adaptive. It's going
mhm,
to slow down. And then it's going to continue to slow down, and you have to eat even less and even less and even less. I mean, really, for fat loss, you can exercise more, you can eat less, you can use more fat burners, but there is an upper limit to it. And what I found,
yeah.
it's about 2 pounds a week is kind of the upper limit.
Yeah, and definitely going faster and then sacrificing that super hard muscle gain you had that took you forever to put on just because you're impatient. It just seems like
I
a
mean,
bad
muscle's
practice.
metabolically expensive. Your body doesn't want
Right.
to hang on to it. You have to trick it to hang on to muscle and
Mhm.
to lose fat. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived the ice age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fat is the emergency store for fuel.
Yeah. I have a feeling like, a lot of people had these ideas that cavemen were these big, giant, burly, bodybuilding type, hulking brutes. And I would guess that most cavemen were skinny guys who were really lean, really low on calories, trying to survive, basically,
Oh yeah, I mean
So,
we know. I mean, we know that they didn't live much more than 30 years,
yeah. I mean,
right?
that right there should
Right. I
tell us
mean,
something.
and they were. scavenging and then eating whatever the fuck they could kill.
Right. Right.
And we know wild game
Hmm.
is very lean. There's not very high. They weren't eating ribeyes
That's
and
right.
bacon.
That's for sure.
That's always what makes me laugh with the carnivore guys. They talk about being primal, and I'm like, I don't think any fucking caveman was eating pork sausages, man.
For real. For real.
they were they were killing that buffalo or woolly mammoth that was probably 8% body fat, and
Yeah, for sure.
eating super lean game and eating nuts and berries and twigs and whatever the fuck they could get their hands on,
Yeah.
and
So this
sometimes probably
is,
not eating for days or weeks.
yeah, because it was hunt, kill, eat what you can while you can, and then try and find the next
And
thing, you know?
and do you think the body's going to carry 270 pounds of muscle under those circumstances?
That it doesn't need to use, by the way, that just looks good, you know?
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
what are you going to do with it day in, day
it's,
out, all the time, you
so the
know?
answer is no. I mean, we can look. I mean, if we want examples, we can just look at there are many tribes that are still living essentially.
Yeah.
They're hunter gatherer societies, and usually, if you look at them, they're usually skinny fat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Usually, I mean,
Like the
then that's
Bushmen and the
probably.
Kalahari, that kind of folks that in that
Yeah,
primal
they're
state.
skinny fat, which is honestly for survival is
It's what
probably
you want,
great.
right?
Yeah, right.
That's what you
I
want.
don't I don't think 5% body fat with 260 pounds of muscle is great for making it on the savannah.
Shit, that's hard to make it the next day to your meal
Right,
past the
right.
show.
So
So anyway, let me just jump.
sorry.
And no, that was great. We just set up the stage so that people understand, like, as they see this, Paul and I are looking at this with the long game in mind. Like, we're already thinking, like this year, I'm going to do maybe, possibly a show. For sure, I am going to have a lean phase where I'm going to lean out all I can near the end of the year, no matter what happens. And the reason for that is in order to optimize this whole process of building muscle, staying lean, within reason, and then maximizing that for the effects that we want. But I wanted to start by talking so early this last 90 days, I traveled to the Arnold, met with Paul, and that was a mind-blowing experience because I'd never realized how much travel can affect your weight, your look, your hydration, how you hold water. It was crazy.
I
I
don't know how
literally gained,
bodybuilders travel
yeah,
week after week for shows.
yeah, and that's crazy because the impact, you don't realize it. I gained something like, I was like 218 pounds post strip from just water retention,
Water and inflammation and
Yeah, and
high sodium
inflammation,
food.
sodium for the food, all of that stuff, man. It was so, which also leads to people who are watching this. Remember, the scale is just one measurement. It's not all. Look at your pictures because, I mean, I look big as a house in those pictures, at 218 holding all that water, but I wasn't particularly lean, I don't think, compared to, say, now, you know. But in any case, it was something that was interesting that was a factor at the beginning of these last 90 days. So, and after that, I got back and we got back to work. We started working with checking our health, getting into a health phase. Now, why do we do a health phase? I'll let my man explain right here. Why would we jump into a health phase after that rebound/growth phase that I did before?
So you don't die.
That's it. And in few words, yeah. In order to improve your health,
all kidding aside, but it's beyond that. There's just I know many of us that do this are wired to push constantly,
Mhm.
and that can be, I like making fun of people because I talk about nobody overtrains. And it's more just poking at people. You certainly can overtrain, let's be
Yeah.
honest. And there's only so far you can take a phase and be productive with it, especially if you're pushing PEDs. And I think what I've seen work well, and people may disagree with me, but you have these periods where you push, whether it's fat loss or muscle gain. And what I found for most people, 16 to 20 weeks is sort of the upper limit of what you can do it productively before the body just starts to fight back.
Yeah.
And it may not be toxicity from the drugs. It could be just you've food, you've eaten a shit ton of food, and your
Hmm.
insulin sensitivity starts to slide, your body starts to push back, or it could be training fatigue starts to mount up, and you just
Hmm.
need to pull back a little bit. And the chronic exposure to exogenous hormones after a while can
Hmm.
all the stupid things that we do can also take its toll on you. And I think what ends up happening is when people just keep continuing pushing and pushing and pushing, you have this accumulation of oxidative stress.
Yeah.
And after a while, it usually what I see, you just hit a tipping point where everything will be fine and then you just break.
Yeah. Or things just don't progress. And
Yeah.
you know how I noticed for me that it was time was I love going to the gym and I felt myself going like, do I really want to go today or do I need a rest day? More often than not, that thought kind of crept in my head. And to me, that was kind of like a clear sign that, even though the numbers, maybe the scales moving the right direction, the weights are still progressing, still, something needs to happen. And so we figured, so we did that health phase. And in this case, it was just going back down to a TRT, remove any and all anything that could be removed that was extraneous aid for that growth season. It was as simple as that. Drop down to TRT, stay healthy. I think we kept the food the same, actually, if I
Yeah.
remember.
It just depends on the person. Sometimes I'll pull the food back a bit. Sometimes I leave it the same. It's more of a judgment call
Hmm.
on based on how body composition's going. If your metabolism's ripping and we're burning through the food, usually what I like to do is to try to hold weight
Yeah.
during, get yourself, and that's another thing, to get your body into a new homeostatic point. Uh, and like with you, you're much leaner at a new set point, and let's let that settle in a little bit. This is very bro sciency, but
Right.
what I've seen is if you just take, and this sometimes what I'll see is people come out of a cut and immediately rush into or come out of a bulk and immediately rush into a cut, and then they end up netting nothing.
Right. Right. It's
Um,
almost like you just went and that's it. And
yeah,
then you're
and,
back to the
and
same.
whether or not it can happen in adults, we can debate it, but satellite cell proliferation takes time. I mean, months for new cells to fully mature, even just from hypertrophy, a myofibral point of view. I would imagine it takes a little while for everything to cement in, for lack of better terms.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
so I would just, that's part of it. Part of it is recovery. Um, you don't want to be in constant mTOR all the time either. That ain't great for
Yeah.
longevity.
Hmm.
It's good for growing muscle, but so 16, 20 weeks is usually what I see.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
wheels start to fall off. Even sometimes when you're young, you can get away with pushing for longer, but eventually it catches up with you.
Yeah. I mean, these things eventually there is a price to pay, and bodybuilders are notorious for ignoring things until they're like way too late in the process, and they're in actual trouble, and they feel bad. So that's one of the things that we avoided by doing this. Like I'd never had a period, thankfully, so far, knock on wood, where I felt bad or ill or
Yeah.
anything. The only thing that happened was going back down to TRT. I remember complaining that I was a little bit more achy than usual and whatnot. And Paul, you told me, what is it? Well, now you're a human.
Yeah,
You're not a demigod. Yeah,
you don't realize you're on until you're off.
that's right. You stop going from Achilles the demigod to like now I'm normal Joe Blow guy. you know.
Yeah, I'll
So
get guys all the time like, "Wow, I'm not really feeling anything." And I'm like, "Oh, you will when you come back off."
yeah.
And
Oh
they're
yeah.
like, "Well, man, I kind of feel like shit." And I'm like, "No, that's the way you used to feel all the time. You just got
Yeah.
used to feeling
He just
feeling
got
like
used to it.
Superman."
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Another thing that we're going to talk again, just straight disclosure. Being an older competitor, when I did make the choice to go enhanced, I'm very, very, very selective as to how I do that. Why? Because I'm 55 years old right now. I'm not about to do some crazy thing just to get the short term gains without looking at my overall long health window. Because at some point, bodybuilding will end. At some point, I'll just be grandpa. and I want to be healthy grandpa that plays with my kids and my grandkids. So in the interest of for everyone who knows, testosterone is the base of what we do. At least what I've been doing. High testosterone is the base, followed with, if necessary, as a second anabolic, primo or mast or both in some combination, is what I'm comfortable with. But we did introduce last time, slightly before during that growth phase, a small amount of NPP, specifically because as an older person, it helped with my joints, and it did have that. It did have that effect. That was Paul's recommendation. And what are your thoughts on that? And now we're back to again, the test is doing most of the lifting. I think I'm at 300 now with 150 primo, 150 NPP. That's it. Nothing crazy. Not 3 grams of gear or whatever, whatever crazy ass thing it is that some of these kids say they do. And anyway, Paul, if you had some comments on like why we chose those compounds, maybe to
Well, I mean,
illustrate.
it's it's all a risk assessment, right?
Hmm.
If you're 22 years old and you're vying for a pro card or an Olympia qualification, you might take a little more risk.
That's right.
And you also might have a little more runway for risk when you're young and healthy.
That's right.
I mean, kids are out drinking, binge
Yeah.
drinking on weekends, probably doing more damage to them than what Tren would do,
Agree.
or Anadrol or something like that. But as we age, we can't do either, right? And I
Yeah.
think the base of any performance enhancement would be to replace the bioidentical hormones that tend to decline as we age. And if we want to get performance enhancement, we can take those to lower superphysiological levels. So the stuff that's bioidentical, we know what the downstream metabolism looks like.
Hmm.
We know what the side effects are and how to easily deal with them. They're pretty predictable in most people.
Yep.
And they have a very good safety profile. I've not really seen anybody do long-term permanent damage to themselves from replacement doses of testosterone and growth hormone, or even slightly above, or you probably even get more aggressive with both. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think those are going to be your highest,
Yeah.
risk versus reward um, ratio. Now, and then there's secondary choices that are also have long term clinical data on them, or maybe anecdotal data. In some instances, we don't have a lot of clinical data on Masteron, but Primobolan was prescribed up until last year.
Right.
It was widely used, and we know that it's very safe. It might not be the most potent anabolic there is,
Hmm.
but it has a very strong safety profile, and so does Masteron.
Yeah. I guess out of the compounds too, you could argue, I guess DECA has been very thoroughly researched, but that one, again, we're talking about risk profiles and the length of the ester there. It's one of the reasons we went with NPP rather than DECA for this joint support, is because if I got in trouble, I can pull that very quickly and not have to worry
Yeah,
about it.
Nandrolin's an interesting one because it does have some weird 19 Nors have some, although Tren seems to be resistant to a lot of the downstream metabolism, but 19 Norse can do some really weird shit in the body. I mean, they're synthetic progestins. Men typically don't have a high exposure tolerance to pro, pro, progesterone or progestin, so there's some strange things to do. But most of it's pretty. This problems we deal with are, for the most part, are benign, right? It's erectile dysfunction, it's anxiety,
Yep.
it's water retention, gynecomastia. It's not life threatening stuff. So I would say my A tier of compounds, I'd probably would put Test, GH, Primable, and maybe Masteron as far as
Yep.
safety goes. And then B tier probably would be Nandrolone, maybe Anavar.
Yeah.
Maybe Anavar in that column. And then we get down into the more risky stuff
Yeah.
as we go further down the rabbit hole.
For sure. And
And
then
as you age,
I was just
um,
gonna say that. Yeah, you have less of those guardrails to bounce off of.
Yeah,
So
like, I get the temptation once in a while to run trim, but then I think remember the problems I had with her, like equipoise. I probably don't want to fuck with that anymore. Or anadrol, or any of these things I used when I was younger. Probably just to me, the risk versus reward at my age aren't there.
yeah, and recently on Paul's channel, we actually it was yesterday we recorded that. We had a lengthy discussion of an EQ specifically, which is one of those compounds. And again, as we learn more and we get more data, you kind of change that risk assessment. If you ask me, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, even I'm new to the game, but say 2 or 3 years ago, is EQ, A, B, C safety tier, I would have said probably, it sounds like B, maybe, you know?
Yeah, we just didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of human data on it, and there really aren't that. I mean, it was mostly used.
Hmm.
There was some trials in humans, and I think it was briefly used in humans, but it's an equine. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
ultimately, it was meant for horses,
it's meant for
so,
horses, and it's
yeah,
been used in horses, it's still used in horses.
yeah. So,
And there's some really weird metabolites, downstream metabolism of it that are hard to predict, and we don't exactly know the consequences of because it's never been studied. But now, with the shortages we had in the last year and a half, a lot of people were using equipoise, and I look at a shit ton of blood panels, and we saw some concerning stuff. I saw some things that I was concerned about that you don't see from these other compounds.
and that's
Not
some
not to get on that rant, but
right,
by the
right. No,
time
but
this video's out, I have another deep dive
mhm.
with molecular. It's already recorded. It's releasing tonight, but by the time it's out, you can catch it on my channel where we go through pretty deep dive into the equipoise.
Yeah, I'm hoping to release this a couple of days from recording. We're recording June 1st, so hopefully the late first week of June this will be out, and I'll make sure to link underneath in the notes to those videos. So because the
Yeah.
harm reduction part of what you do, I think it's important. It's really important that this sport can be done in a safe way,
Well, I'm not one of safer, I should
or
say.
safer, less risky. Yeah, more risk
Yeah, that's why I
averse.
call it safer use, not safe use.
Yeah, good
it's like
point. It's
saying
relative. Yeah.
It's like saying safe motorcycle riding. There is
Hmm.
no safe motorcycle riding.
Yeah,
There
you're
is,
still going 120,
well, even if you're
so
driving the speed limit, you can still take a spill
sure,
and crack your head open. So
that's right.
it's still an inherently risky activity, but you can make it safer.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and there's a big difference between 200 milligrams of testosterone and 1,000.
Yeah.
But some of us, and I'm not one of these guys to tell people, no, you shouldn't. I just want to make sure people are informed and know potential consequences. And then everybody has their own risk tolerance and they can assess their risk tolerance based off of the information that's out there.
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right. So, another thing that we always monitor, that I keep metrics on, is blood pressure fairly often, probably 4 or 5 times a week at least,
It's an
just to make sure. Yeah.
easy one to keep track of, and most
Yep.
people don't.
It's an easy one, and that one has guided a lot of my decision making. More than anything, I only have one kidney, so I always want to have that blood pressure in check. So the second it gets even, I do anything in my diet or exercise or um, or enhancement that affects that, I immediately pull. That's just me. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
smart.
So, that's the way to do it. And that the reason I say that is, for example, NPP is known to make you hold water. So therefore, I kind of keep an eye out on that one because they might hold so much more water that perhaps it might raise my BP a little bit. And if it does, then I know to either tone it down or perhaps remove it. So far, so good. So far, it's been pretty good bodybuilder normal blood pressure ranges. 125/80 on average most times. That's
Yeah,
what we want.
130 over 80 sort of bodybuilder normal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it's what you got to keep an eye out. Okay, so let's talk in the last 3 months though, after all of this, what has actually changed physically? So, coach, take it away here. I feel like delts came up, lats came up, legs, I don't know what the fuck happened there, but they really came up. Go figure.
Genetics.
Yeah. Genetics, probably. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see people, and this has happened to me before when I pulled down to TRT, I actually start to progress again.
Yep.
And a lot of
I
times,
never
and
lost any power. Yeah.
I think you actually improved.
Yeah. Yeah. We can look at I'll bring up the
And
numbers and the lifts later. We can talk a
I
bit.
think you improved, and I'll see that often. And I think sometimes it's just the reduction in oxidative stress.
Yeah.
Um, you eh, and after you push gear for a while, you just start to feel lethargic.
Yeah.
Your body's taxed. You just don't feel great, and then you get back down to a baseline and start to feel better again, and you can actually push in the gym.
Mhm.
Um,
You
I,
know, I'm a big believer. Dr. Dean St. Mart mentioned one time. I've looked at it. I know you've talked to him. He's probably a friend of yours, if I recall correctly. But he always mentioned that during the health phase, is one of the things that he thinks happens is that our mitochondria are no longer being affected or working to make your body tolerate compounds and so forth, and they are now free to do other things that will
yeah,
make
you
you
talked about the
healthier.
stem cell pool too.
Yeah.
When you're pushing a bunch of anabolics and you are doing things to push mTOR through the roof, that your stem cell pool might entirely be dedicated toward hypertrophy and
Hmm.
nothing is available for organ repair. And so maybe it's not that a lot of these drugs are directly toxic and causing organ damage. It's an indirect result of all the stem cell pool being redirected to
Yeah.
hypertrophy, and there's nothing left to repair and regenerate organs with, because your organs do repair themselves. Well, for the most part, kidneys kind of
Yeah.
don't, but
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that makes all the difference right there. So let's see. This so we know from a visual standpoint, and later on, I'll probably post production. I might throw some pictures up here so that folks can see like what we're talking about, because it really, I'll be honest with you, it astounded me that going down to TRT, I got more vascular, lost the NPP water weight. That's expected. But I looked better, which was
no, it's a
surprising.
reduction in inflammation.
Yep. Yep.
Water weight
So,
came off, you're less inflamed,
mhm,
oxidative stress has been reduced.
yeah.
I mean, it
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I
I know
mean,
you were
this,
worried you were going to lose
I was,
stuff.
I'm the vainest man you'll ever meet, Paul. You know this. So I was like, and I compete in the pretty boy division on top of that. So I have to try and look good,
I
you
mean,
know?
I was on 200 milligrams of testosterone for 16 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
you
didn't even run
maintained, you're got
GH.
huge. Yep.
And I lost a little bit, but I don't think it was anything dramatic. I mean, I was
No,
still rolling around 270 pounds.
no, you're still clearly a bodybuilder. Like, you're one of those people that you look at them and you're like, that person is clearly a bodybuilder, not just a gym rat. You can
Yeah.
tell. You can tell. So yeah. So there's a lot to be said about a TRT dose, which also leads to another thing that I learned is that, you don't, again, to say the thing, you don't have to go crazy with the compounds. Like, you don't have to dial it to 11, off the bat. You can slowly make your way and get there, to whatever it is that your body needs.
I heard Broderick Chavez say this one time, and this one made
Hmm.
me laugh, and it's a good analogy. He said it's like being on the first floor and trying to get to the 50th floor of the building. Pressing
Yeah,
the the 50th floor button's not going to harder is not going to get you there faster.
yeah, you're just
Right?
smashing it there.
It doesn't speed you up.
Yeah, it's
There's
not go
there's a
fast.
rate limit on hypertrophy, and
Yeah.
there's only so much muscle protein synthesis that can be stimulated in a given period of time. And we want to set the table up for maximum,
Hmm.
but there's some genetic limits on it. Their diet plays a role in it. Nutrient partitioning, insulin sensitivity, and but most people just want to bludgeon the androgen receptor with more androgens, thinking it's going to speed things up, and it often doesn't. Sometimes it's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes. So here's some numbers. Let me see if I can do the screen share, uh, and see if, yeah, there we go. I think we can share this one. Let's see. And this is the major lifts that improved. Thank you, ChatGPT, for taking my Excel sheets and spitting them out as a whole. So the leg press was the one that went wild, like we were talking about. I started at, so the machine by itself is 167 pounds, and then I added, 3 plates on the side, 270. That's where I started, sets of 15. So this is fairly, high volume. Progressed to, I think I'm actually at 560 now. So, and this is progression even through that TRT phase,
Yeah.
which again, I want to emphasize people that just because you're in a health first or uh, it doesn't mean you're going to lose. You can build, apparently. It seems like you can.
I learned that lesson a long time ago. Dante Trudell, of DC training fame. I think Jordan Peters was inspired largely by him. Dante was a huge progressive overload guy, but he 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 was always like, when you're on lower doses, like, keep pushing your training, man. Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
unless you need a break. I mean, if you're beat up and your muscles are beat up, or your joints are beat up, and you need to pull back and take a break, take a break. But you might be surprised what you can do on a TRT phase.
One thing that I'm wondering, and we can get to it later, but it's so the current workout that Paul's got me doing is push pull legs, one rest day, and then push pull legs, and then I do push pull legs and one rest day, and so on. I'm wondering if, since legs only get hit twice a week, with that somewhat long period of time in between, I wonder if that's the reason that they've grown more, that they've actually, since I'm older, that extra bit of rest
Possibly.
relative to the upper body, right? Maybe? I don't know.
Possibly. I don't know. I have all my clients on the same routine, and you
Oh,
grew.
okay.
I
So,
think it's just it's your genetics.
okay. So it's just a genetic factor, which a lot of things in the sport are definitely defined by genetics. For example, I will never have a small waist. I'm screwed there. I've got to learn to pose, you know?
Got to
So,
turn into 45.
yeah, do the 45, the infamous men's physique 45 twist, So, yeah, learn to do that. Going through these just real quick so people can understand what they can expect. If you're diligent, if you dial in your food, your nutrition, plus, yep, genetics for sure. But even at this age, in your mid 50s, the hack squat went from 105. Yesterday, I had it at 340, actually. So even
That's
this one's
awesome.
improved a ton. Yeah, it's improved a ton. The barbell shoulder press, which I used to have shoulder pain from doing the one set to failure approach for years. I could barely do anything with my shoulders. It's progressed, 50 pounds in like 3-4 months or something like that. That's crazy. That's insane. That is crazy. And then the supinated barbell row, which is one of my favorites also, started 195, working up to like 225 now, I think 235 today. So again, it's showing a constant progression. So that's something that I just wanted to put out there and emphasize that, again, you can get results if you stick with it and follow a plan and just be patient, be patient. And high volume, I'm telling you, changing to high volume versus the one set to failure or to catastrophic failure or balls out Dorian Yates style, at least for me, it seems to have agreed. It seems to have agreed with my age and where I'm at and so on. So yeah, and then the delts, we know from the visuals, have grown a lot, and that dumbbell shoulder press is up to like 75 pounds now. I'm a little guy. I'm 5'8", about 200 pounds currently as I sit here. So I'm super happy, super duper happy. And then there's that barbell shoulder press, which went to 95 to a 145, which is super nice. So
I
that's
wanted
it.
to
Yeah.
make a quick note on the Dorian Yates style training. I trained that
Yes.
way for years.
Hmm.
It can work. And people get very upset. People get very emotional about their training and their diet philosophy, and people
Yeah.
get very emotional when you say you got better progress on on volume training. And so here's my thing. Like, look, I both can work. You have knobs you can turn on the training dial. You can turn up intensity, but you got to dial back
Yeah.
You got to dial back volume and frequency, or you can turn down intensity, but you have to turn up volume and frequency. That's really it. And to me, the key thing is, and I don't know why people don't consider this. I hear these guys doing that hardcore style of training when they're in their 40s and 50s, and then they're
Yes.
in the gym for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then their elbows, their knees hurt, they're tearing muscles, they're beat up, they hurt, and they can only train hard for like 2 weeks, and then they got to fucking back off for like a month, and then they're back at it. Like, how much progress are you going to make if you're constantly beat up? There's a saying in the NFL: you can't make the club in the tub. I
Yeah.
mean, but,
Yeah.
but
It's true.
you can't make progress if you're not in the gym training
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So I think at our age, especially, it becomes even more important to monitor if you are causing joint and connective tissue pain and you can't, even if it's just subconscious. People say, well, I just push through it. Well, like, if your
Mhm.
elbows are hurting or if your shoulders hurting, believe me, I know.
Right.
How hard are you going to push in the gym? You can't. You're going to be doing forced reps in reserve.
Mhm.
So why not? You want to train hard enough to elicit a stimulus, but not so hard that you can't recover and continue to train. And in my book, I'd rather pull back a little bit and train with a little more frequency,
Yeah.
and give myself more opportunity. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, you've had the best growth of your life.
100%. 100%.
So this
And
is all things, and it's not, for the hardcore hit guys, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It does work, but it comes with a cost. You're after a while, most of the guys that do that, you don't see them last past 40, usually, training that way.
yep, it makes a
Sorry.
huge, huge difference. No worries.
Allergies.
Yeah, it's that season for sure.
Yep.
So, so yeah, I mean, it's really important for people to realize also the rate of recovery is way different when you're older, and high volume training like this definitely, at least in my experience, lends itself to way better
Well,
recovery
you could
and
turn
overall
down the
feel.
intensity a little bit, use a little less weight,
Yep.
reduce your risk
Hmm.
and the wear and tear in the gym, and be able to train with more frequency. And really, at the end of the day, training is just the stimulus for hypertrophy,
That's right.
right? We need enough stimulus to elicit hypertrophy,
Hmm.
and we can let our results dictate. It's like and I had this mentality for years that you have to go to the point where your eyeballs are popping out of your head and everything hurts for you to make any progress, and it's just not true.
Right. Yeah, this can be done in an intelligent, focused way, and that whole concept too, which is this is something that I tell people when they're new that I don't think a lot of people realize, and then you can see when they get that aha moment, and it's that when you're bodybuilding. When you're moving that weight, you're trying to make that weight feel heavier than it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
That's important.
it's the kung fu of bodybuilding.
Yeah. Yep. That
I and
control and slow and
I'm a very mediocre jujitsu practitioner, but you see it in jujitsu. The guys that are white belts are the ones putting the most effort in.
yeah. Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the guys that are black belts are just out there, just like it looks like they're barely doing anything.
Yeah. They're efficient.
They're
They're very
efficient,
efficient.
right? Right.
Yep.
They've gotten that. That is the big difference between a black belt and well, besides knowledge and
Mhm.
a white belt is the old dudes tapping out young guys all the time because they just are very efficient.
Yep.
They know how to make the most out of the least. And I think
Mhm.
that's what, as we age in bodybuilding, we need to really think about it critically. And like ultimately, it's mechanical tension that drives hypertrophy.
Yep.
And putting 20 more pounds on the bar is not a guarantee of more mechanical tension. We can take squats for an example. You
Mhm.
can widen your stance, put another 50 pounds on the bar, put knee wraps on, and squat more weight. You didn't suddenly get stronger or create more mechanical tension. You just increased leverage.
Yeah. Yeah. You just change the
You just
leverage
moved the
point.
fulcrum
Yeah.
on
Um,
the
yeah.
right, and actually made it easier. So really, I think this is a fundamental difference between strength and hypertrophy training. We want to make the lift as hard as we possibly can,
Yep.
right?
This is very important.
And
Yes.
while taking stress off of joint and connective tissue.
Yep. It's It's literally the opposite of what, say, a power lifter would want to do. Because those guys want to move the most amount of weight possible in the most efficient way
It's the
possible.
exact opposite.
Right. It's literally the opposite because
So, and I
that's how
think that's
they
where,
win. Yeah.
and I think that's where God. And look, I do think you need occasionally do need to train for strength. I think it is important to progress strength,
Sure.
um, within the context of good form and not hurting yourself. But I think that's where a lot of young bodybuilders, or even old guys, I see old guys. Actually, the old guys I think are worse. They're pretty stubborn with it. They think they
Hmm.
need to lift the heaviest weight in the gym sloppily,
Yeah.
and then they increase injury risk, and then they wonder why they're beat up all the time and not make any progress.
There you go. You've seen those guys that go in, day out. They look the same, after a
Yeah, I saw
year
a
or
guy at
two.
the gym the other day that had knee wraps on his elbows, and I'm like, bro, if you have to wear knee wraps on your elbows, man, you gotta. He's like wrapping them up. I'm like, probably need
Yeah.
to reevaluate some shit.
Yeah, there's some shit going on there that's not right. That's for sure. For sure. Um, anyway, so let's see. So the lessons learned real quick out of these last 90 days is let's see. Bodybuilding works when we're repetitive and boring. Consistency is the key. It's not about doing crazy superhuman heroic efforts like here and there. It's about being consistently boring, getting really good at doing those things all the same. Same with your food, same with your rest. It's all
Yeah,
the same, boring, but consistent. That's one. Recovery drives growth. I have been able to recover better due to the modalities we talked about earlier. It's driving growth. Growth is good. The scale is only one tool. People get freaking focused on that. You, Paul, taught me that it's the scale, but with the pictures and with the macros and with the health marker things, all of these things together paint the whole picture.
yeah.
Ultimately, yeah, and the health markers matter. Kind of related to that. We talked about that. It absolutely does, and that compounds will amplify your effort, but they never replace it. So all of you guys who are out there thinking you're gonna like pin magic, it's not gonna happen. Okay, that's not how it works. That's not
Got
how
to
it
do the
works at
work.
all. Yep, the work has to be done. All right, now looking towards contest prep, should there be, if my wife allows it, should there be a contest in October? We're talking about starting contest prep around July, somewhere
Yep.
around there. So, as my coach, what should I be focused on? Do you think what needs to be brought up? If you had to do like a quick assessment of what to do here.
I mean, I think the main thing is just the huge thing with contest prep always it's the growing is done. There's nothing you're gonna bring up on contest prep. So
Yep.
I just need to throw that out the window. People always think, what body parts can I bring up? And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, we're past that point.
The grow into the show crowd.
I
Yeah.
mean, it can happen. I've had it happen to me, but um, it don't expect it,
Right.
right?
Right. Be pleasantly surprised if it happens.
I think the
Right.
only way that happens is if you start prep super lean.
Hmm.
That's the only way I've ever seen it happen. Is if you start super lean, you could potentially grow into the show, but
Yeah.
and it makes sense because if you've got a lot of fat to lose, you're going to push deficit harder, and it's going to be really difficult to grow muscle even with drugs and that. So,
Yeah.
really, the job on contest prep, the things that you can improve, get yourself lean, just get
Yeah.
shredded. That's objective number one. Don't lose muscle, and then polish your posing. That's the thing that
Yes.
I would spend a lot of effort and time working on right now.
Yeah.
Making sure that your posing is just locked in and improved.
Because this is, as we know, it's a game of deception and presentation. And, in my case, as a masters competitor, we're already dealing with the fact that we're older. We're dealing with skin issues in most cases. In my case, after heavy weight loss, there's some back skin that's gonna, you know, how do I learn how to pose to minimize attention to that area and maximize it to the places we want? So that's key right there. You know,
Yeah, I would say really, and I don't see enough people spend time on their posing. Get the
yeah,
posing dialed in, get it perfected.
yeah. It
Make,
has to
make it.
be like automatic in your head. You don't even, you just do it. You
It's
just
got to be muscle memory. I mean,
yeah,
you're a musician, right? You
yep,
know if you're going to perform on stage, it has to be automatic. Otherwise, if you have to think, you're going to flub up.
yep. No, for sure, for sure. So with that, guys, I think that's a wrap for the last 90 days. We'll do another one in 3 months. Hopefully, see what happens. See
Sounds
if I
good.
start getting lean, and it's going to be very interesting this year because I really am curious to see once we get to that stage ready state. I know I can definitely lose fat. We've proven that. What does that look like with what we've built now, though? That's what I'm very curious about. What that stage weight's gonna be like, and what that look is gonna be like. Uh,
Better.
so, well, it's better. Yeah, it'll be better. So hopefully it'll be better and inspiring, and we can get a whole bunch of other masters people to do this and do the sport and be healthy, man.
Second
Uh,
prep, what I see,
yeah,
man, it's always a lot easier to get leaner.
yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be
You
way
know what to
easier.
expect. You know what
Yeah.
to expect.
Well,
Yeah.
your body's in a better spot. You have more muscle. You've done it before.
hmm
It'll come off a lot, and you'll get even leaner.
Yeah, yeah, and that's crazy when I think about that, by the way. Because even leaner. Well, I told you what the DEXA scan guy told me when he saw that. He's like, this is probably like the in the top five of over 10,000 DEXA scans I've ever seen for just overall fat loss. I've never seen anything like that.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, it was crazy. It was good. It was good. But yeah, so with that, guys, comment, hit like, subscribe. If I can do it, honestly, anyone can do it. I'll have Paul's information here in the notes on the bottom so you can reach out to him. He don't hesitate and reach out quick because slots are filling in quickly. So if you want to have a chance and do what I did and have the man take care of you, that's the way to do it, guys. So anyway, with that being said, Paul, as always, thank you for your time. Guys, thank you for your time and for watching this. Let me know if you like it. Give us some comments. All right, everybody. With that, Rise 41 out.
Thank you.